So I'm going to read. This is actually my first official bookstore reading, so I'm very excited from this book, The Mansion of Happiness, which is my first book. And the book takes its title from one of the first board games published in America. It was a sort of Victorian moralistic board game that you would land on various squares, and on the various squares it would be like the summit of dissipation, or these sorts of like moralistic kind of terms. And the goal of the game is that you circle the center, and then when you reach the center, you reach the mansion of happiness, which is heaven, nirvana. And the really ironic thing about this is that the board game, if you can look it up online, because of course you can look up anything up online, and if you see the board game itself, the squares that you land on look like coffins. So it's really dark and strange, and for me, very representative of what childhood means. And I think it may be, it may be a factor of my particular childhood. My mother was a miniaturist, so I was raised in a house where there was literally a dollhouse in every room of the house. We had a dollhouse in the kitchen, we had a dollhouse in the bathroom, we had a dollhouse in the garage, we had a dollhouse in the laundry room. So I was surrounded by dolls and miniature small things. And I come from a small family. We are small people. It's a theme. So in any case, I'll read a number of poems from the book. And I'll start with the preface. I was raised in the company of dolls. My mother, the miniaturist, made pies the size of thumbnails. My father, the shadow boxer, talked only to the dark. No one here remembers the love of a chair for its ottoman, or the privacy of a shut door. Windows grieve in their sashes. They burn with interior light, like blood oranges. Imagine a dollhouse in every room, another room, in every girl, another girl, looking out a tiny window, her face repeated on the glass. As two who could not pretend to love each other, we stared through grief. Pupil, poupée, little doll orphaned by the iris of my eye, what did you see? What did you see but that other girl in me? The door to whose post was nailed the smallest coffin, hiding the name of God inside, like rust in the mouth. The opposite of the body. Of the face in general, let me say, it's a house built by men and lived in by their dreams. When you've been plucking eyes out of the floorboards as long as I have, you'll see this, just as you'd see the patience it requires to render an eyebrow, half an hour, and an understanding of architecture. When you see your body, think its opposite. Not the bridge, but its lighted face reflecting the water. Some other city as seen from a ship. Your forehead, once ponderous, now light as umbrellas. Still, not beautiful enough to make time stop. The pleasure in being a woman's knowing everything's borrowed and can't be denied. As when you take apart a clock, there's another inside. There are a lot of poems in the book about my mother. And thank God she doesn't go on YouTube, because I think Jose is recording this for YouTube. But there are a number of poems about her and the experience of being raised in this environment. And this next poem has a kind of weird tangential inspiration, and I think a lot of us who write have this experience. You find inspiration in strange things that have nothing to do with the subject matter of the poem itself. You don't find that until later. But the inspiration for this poem came from a billboard on South 101. I was driving down 101 one day, and there was a billboard for the Stanford Shopping Center. that had a tagline on it that said, "The Garden of Everything." It called the Stanford Shopping Center the Garden of Everything. I thought, this is incredibly lyrical. It's a strange, like, weird thing to call a shopping center. But anyway, this billboard somehow finds its way into the poem. The question of my mother. The question of my mother is on the table. The dark box of her mind is also there. The garden of everywhere we used to walk together. Among the things the body doesn't know, it is the dark box I return to most. Fallopian city ingrained in memory, ghost orchid egg in the arboretum, hinged lid forever bending back and forth, open to me, then closed like the petals of the paper white narcissus. What would it take to make a city in me? Dark arterial streets, neglected ovary, hard as an acorn, hidden in its dark box on the table. Mother, I am out of my mind, spilling everywhere. The past is another country. I'm no longer in love with the sand that makes the pearl, or anything grainy that hardens its beauty by passing through pain. Bone revisits the porous soil and presses itself into coal. Whole colonies of canaries refuse to return from that mine. Is there anything yellower than their dark shaft of regret? The past is another country, all its cities forbidden, their borders closed to you on every side, while here God has many mansions, all too small to live in. When I inherit his palace, I'll take my moat everywhere, making difficult any crossing. A few more poems about dolls. Does anybody else find dolls as creepy as I do, or is it, okay, thank you. Yeah. It's really, really weird, and like, in particular, the kinds of dolls that my family gravitates toward. There's one, my husband can vouch for this, it's not a lie. It's almost like a 3-foot tall clown doll that my mother has encased in a glass container, and my grandmother has the same doll. They bought them together and they display them together. So it's like you can't visit anyone in my family without seeing this 3-foot tall clown in my glass case. So really, really strange. Conversation with doll. You cannot remember the face you met yesterday without the clever engineering of the mind. Don't feel bad. Grief is also mechanical, winding around everything we know. I'm like that too, speaking only to myself in the company of others. As they say, wear the same dress every day. Rehearse your own forgiveness. Oh, sedentary life, more dangerous than a painting of a woman bound by her frame, showing her only face to the room. Unable to look at anything without a stone sense of gravity, I can still hold your body in one hand.